this is Peter Prock, and the timer just started.
Hi, I'm John Blossom, and welcome to another episode of 10 Minute Strategy. Today we're taking a look at IPOs and some exciting ones out there right now.
Exactly. Well, the big one is LinkedIn that's coming up. So, John, why don't you give us your thoughts?
LinkedIn has been out there for several years now, a social media network for business professionals that probably most of you are on. And they're trying to raise $175 million. And to me, it looks like a good valuation in terms of what they've had to offer. But there is kind of a tortoise and hare story here, Peter, isn't there?
Absolutely. I mean, LinkedIn has actually been around much longer than Facebook. Started, as I remember hearing about it first around 2001, I believe, right around that time period. And it's been a very interesting way to find people, especially on the professional point of view. Yeah. Facebook clearly took over in terms of a very high-function social network, and has really been the glamour child in the social networking space for quite a while. And of course, their valuation is very high, and their IPO is going to be extremely tricky.
The nice thing about our friends at LinkedIn, though, is that in the process of being the tortoise, although they've been much slower than Facebook in terms of developing features, right. They have been able to develop a lot of quality data.
Right.
And what they have developed out as features seems to provide a lot of quality interactions that people trust. Mm-hmm. That is, people do a lot of combined things in social media, on Facebook and business. We all know that. Right. But if you had to hang your career hat on one or the other, mm-hmm. most professionals are going to say, I'm going to do this on LinkedIn.
Right. Right.
And that's really giving them the ability to attract partners to them as a quality source of business information. So we have a lot of human resources partners, and now even people such as Hoover's, a division of Dun & Bradstreet, that are finally looking at them and saying, hey, wait a minute, this is stuff that is the type of business information that our customers want to know about. So the information is there, features, well, let's hope so, and then there's advertising.
Exactly. So some of the things that you think about, how is LinkedIn going to spend the money, right? So they never had as much money as Facebook. With this IPO, they'll certainly have the cash available to make some changes. Some of the areas that I would recommend changes would be certainly in giving better tools, more granular tools for management of the profile. The profile is a little bit brittle in LinkedIn, although it's got a lot of good data fields. It doesn't give you all the management capability that you might like. But most importantly is in the area of groups. Now, groups is anyone can start a group. In fact, we started a group for the meetup group that we run, which actually usually meets right here in this room at Bogies in Westport. We started a group, and then today, when I was on, it asked me if I wanted to open up the group to be a public group. So that's a new sort of group within LinkedIn, and that is searchable by the search engines. So that's a good thing. But what the groups do not have is management tools that allow the group owner to do anything in the way of branding, anything in the way of delivering a consistent message. Basically, the group just becomes a message board for whoever wants to make a statement, and actually has required quite a bit of management tools and management time to take off comments that might not be appropriate. So any member has been able to make a comment, and then the people who own that group have to go in and say, well, that's not promotional for my business, that's someone promoting their business or whatever. So there's no branding, and there's sort of a slight pain in the neck aspect in terms of managing the group. So I think that's an area where we're going to see some investment once LinkedIn gets the cash in hand.
Yeah, and again, it's another example of good features, but not always great features.
Right.
And some of the features taking an awful long time to get in there. Mm-hmm. For example, today they have a pretty good integration of status updates from other networks that you can integrate in.
Yeah.
But that was a long time in coming. And in advertising, they had contextual ads for a long time. And now, only in the last week or so, are they really beginning to introduce truly contextual ads, which is great and powerful, but it's a late addition. You know, the fact that they now will be able to have ads that are targeted at companies and specific titles and groups within LinkedIn, that's going to be extremely powerful. Long time coming, though.
Right. It's interesting. So LinkedIn started out with a revenue model based on HR professionals, search professionals looking for people to hire, and that's been their most consistent revenue stream all along. Now the advertising revenue seems to now be coming up as something that's going to be very powerful for them in the long term. You think about the revenue that Facebook is now making on advertising, it certainly has advantages over Google AdWords in terms of being able to find people based on their sex and their zip code and their age and things like that. But think about the details that LinkedIn knows about an individual in terms of where they worked, where they went to college, their titles they held, the people they're connected with. I mean, the ability to target those individuals within LinkedIn with very specific offers. I mean, you could really see some powerful advertising of a sort we've never seen before.
If it's done right, it could be one of the most powerful lead generation tools out there in the B2B space.
Right.
And I suppose the question is if it's done right. But we'll see about that. And then the other leg of it that it has potentially to really get a foot into is in the meeting space, the event space. Thinking of some of the things that you just mentioned about Meetup.
Right.
Think of what you could do as LinkedIn if you had lead generation through this targeted advertising, the groups feature, and the ability to coordinate get-togethers all in one shot much more effectively. Trade associations should be trembling in their boots.
Absolutely. You know, one other area that LinkedIn has done, I would say a pretty darn good job, but hasn't gone to become an A student, is in mobile. The LinkedIn mobile app on the iPhone and on the Android, it's there, right?
Yeah.
It's decent. It's got some good features. It's not mind-blowing. It's not the thing that you're going to pull out. They have a feature similar to Bump that is unbelievably complicated to use, and it doesn't really have the function of Bump where once you both got it lined up, you can just do it.
Yeah.
And a LinkedIn mobile app without an easy-to-use Bump is really missing something.
If there's one thing that maybe has been lacking with LinkedIn is sometimes missing a good partnership strategy with some of these other folks that are out there in the valley.
Yeah.
Something like Bump should have been a natural to work with them to get that going down the right path, because this has had a pretty good trajectory.
Yeah.
And so, you know, overall on the scale of IPOs, this is I think this is going to be a good bet. It's relatively conservative amount of money that they're trying to raise, although substantial enough to do a lot of the things that, you know, we've been talking about here.
And more.
And more. You know, versus some of the other valuations, I don't know what you feel about some of these other ones, Peter, but Facebook, to me, that's at least 60 to 80%, if not 100% overpriced at this point. I'd chop it by half. Twitter, so-so, and some of the other ones like Groupon, maybe a little bit more of a question mark.
Yeah, well, Facebook is such a juggernaut. It's very hard to judge whether or not that's too high value in my book, just because the incredible depth and you know, the network effect truly just going and going and going within Facebook, and I don't think we've even seen the full breadth of what people are going to start to do on Facebook. I've told you a little bit about what my college friends and I are doing on Facebook in terms of an 80s group that was getting together. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
And yet the features that just aren't there to support all the things we want to do.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling that Facebook still has a long way to grow on the growth curve. Whether they need that sort of money to do it, they actually probably don't.
It's a good question how much they can actually spend effectively at this time.
Right.
And we'll have to see how that comes out. And if the competitive landscape remains relatively clear,
right,
we'll see what we're talking about that way by the end of the year.
Sure. All right, well, I think our time is up. For 10 Minute Strategy, this is Peter Propp.
This is John Blossom. Thanks very much.